Hey, your weekly Lake of the Ozarks fishing report. It's October 15th. Um, you know, things are finally starting to change a little bit. If you kept up with what's been going on here lately, last 3 weeks, at least for me anyway, and a lot of other guys, it's just been a really tough bite. Um, so if you're not catching them, you're definitely not alone. There's a lot of us that are really just struggling to catch good quality fish. A lot of fish to be caught, a lot of short fish, a lot of just keepers. But boy, the big ones have been kind of elusive. But that happens every single October. It usually starts about the first week of October and goes through about the second, third. You get about a 2 week period where it's just really tough, and this year is no different. The water temp is definitely dropping. We've had some cold nights. We had some cold nights, and then we had some 85, 88 degree windy days, and that just warms that water right back up, and then fish kind of back out and kind of stalled a little bit from wanting to really start feeding up real good. But the last couple of days we had some cool nights, and it's brought that water temp down. We're hovering around 70 now. So we're getting there. And I actually was out. Let's see, this is Thursday, Wednesday. So Tuesday I went out about midday. I had some stuff to do on the lake, and on the way in, I fished my way back to the ramp, and I actually caught quite a few fish and a couple really nice ones on top water. The first thing I noticed when I put the water in Tuesday was the amount of big shad that was working the bank, and I hadn't seen hardly any of them at all. And I noticed throughout about the 4 hours I was out, no matter where I went, I'd go up to the bank and kind of look, and there was a lot of big shad working. So that's a really good sign that things are progressing, getting into fall. They're starting to, the shad come to the bank, they start feeding right along the bank, and the bass get out there and start feeding on them too. So it's going to change things for the better. And I would say this week, you're going to see a big change in the amount of fish brought in, the amount of size, and just the fishing in general getting a lot better. The lake level is down. It's 657.62. So that's about 3 foot low. You'll really notice that when you get out there. A lot of rocks exposed, seawall footings exposed, things like that. That's really showing, the water's down. It's usually not down that low yet this year, but there's just been no water from Truman to pull from, and they pulled a little bit of water from the Ozarks to generate electricity, and each time they do that, it just brings the water down. So that's why we're where we're at already this time of year. Like I said, 3 foot low, and that's a little lower than we're used to. But there's not a whole lot we can do about it. You just gotta deal with it. So it doesn't hurt anything other than a lot of targets we like to fish this time of year are out of the water, or there's not enough water on there to hold the fish. So this like I said, the past 3 weeks, 2.5 anyway, been real tough on me. I've been able to go out and catch little keepers, small keepers, and a lot of Kentucky keepers and the largemouth, just basically schooling fish or fish suspended around main lake docks. A little bit of topwater bites you'll get a little bit in the mornings, and then you might get a little bit in the afternoon. Just hadn't really developed like I expected. We just had the Toyota series here last week, and going into that was exactly like the week prior. Man, just was not catching big fish. Catching keepers, and turns out in this tournament, it didn't take much to pull a check. I think 22 pounds in 2 days. So that's not much for the Ozarks. Congratulations to Corey Cook. He did an extremely good job for 3 days. A lot of pressure, mental pressure in that tournament. You've got 3 days, 3 different weather conditions usually. You got boat traffic to deal with. You've got other boaters. You got just everything, and he really kept it together and pulled off the victory. So congratulations to him on that. Um, like I said, let's just kind of forget the last 2 weeks because it's been so tough, and let's look kind of now and look forward to the next week or so. The fall, it's all about the shad, or something that imitates the shad. So right now, in the mornings and throughout the day, the top water bite is what we're really kind of going to start keying on. A couple other things before that, like something I really like to throw. I throw it all year, but in the fall, it really works and produces a lot. It's just a Zoom Fluke, Super Fluke in pearl color. I rigged that on a 5/0 wide gap Gamakatsu. I put a number 4 treble hook. I hang it on the main shaft of that hook. So basically you run your fluke through the nose, and then you drop your treble hook on there, and then run it through the body. Let it come through, and then pinch it in there. And when you're done, just make sure the thing's perfectly straight so it glides through the water. So this is weightless, no weight. You want to use 8 or 10 pound fluorocarbon on a medium heavy or medium action rod for that. And you just jerk that thing around. If it's windy, jerk it around corners and docks, main lake docks halfway back in, anywhere the wind's blowing in directly on the dock, and it's a productive bait. It's just going to catch a lot of numbers, and it will catch some decent keepers too. So just a really productive bait. Another one, obviously, in the mornings or even throughout the day, is just going to be a buzz bait. This time of year, probably my favorite bait. I throw this on 50-pound braid, heavy action rod, 7 foot, 7'2", and probably my number one go-to is the head knocker, 3/4 ounce, black with gold. You run your treble hook on there and run that treble hook with the plastic. So when you get it rigged, it sticks straight out like that. So any fish start striking it or rolling over it, a lot of times you'll get them on that trailer. You can see this one's the paint's wore off of it. It's all beat up from hitting rocks, hitting catwalks, whatever. But it's sounding perfect right now. So it's a lot about where you put these baits and the action and working the proper banks. And this time of year, I said something about the shad. So the shad is the number one key. Not necessarily those small shad. You'll get a lot of them smaller schooler fish busting them little shad, but them great big shad, them ones from 5 to 8 inches, those are the ones you're looking for this time of year here at the Ozarks. And there's nothing else that probably outfishes the Crocagator head knocker buzzbait. Throw that thing right on the bank. I mean, almost hit the rock. Bigger rocks, ledgy stuff, any seawalls if there's still any in the water. Look for that moss up on the rocks. That's kind of key. That brings the shad up there, and then the bass are right with them. But throw that thing right on the rocks, and work it off the bank, maybe a 45 degree back to the boat, and start out just cranking the thing, just keeping it on top of the water, and gradually speed it up. With your retrieve until you start getting some bites. One thing with a buzzbait is varying your speed on the retrieve. Some days they want it real slow, and some days they want it almost burning it across the top of the water. So really vary your speed until you start getting a few bites, and then it'll key in on the speed that they want the bait. So that's one thing that's pretty important when throwing a buzzbait. 50-pound braid, and just a run-of-the-mill reel, 7-to-1, 7 is about what I throw on that. Nothing too fancy set up for your buzzbait other than the line and the bait itself. A few other baits that work great. Obviously the Whopper Plopper, same setup. I like to lose. I call it the Orange Crush. It's just 7-to-1 gear ratio. 50-pound braid. This is on an old 7-foot heavy action Falcon. This is the bigger 130. That's in bone color. River to Sea makes them, and they've got 3 different sizes. This is a 75. It's a really small one. Produces a lot of bites. You'll catch a lot of fish on that little bait. Then they have a 110, which is kind of a medium, and then they've got the 130. So if you're seeing the big shad, I'd start out with that 130 to try to imitate them. If that doesn't work, maybe kind of vary your sizes of whopper plopper until you start getting some bites. But other baits, and throw that the exact same as a buzz bait. Probably main lake, halfway back, 3/4 way back, working a little bit steeper banks. And then you can vary on some flatter banks too. You just kind of gotta really pay attention where you're seeing the shad. That's the key to it all, is the shad. Other baits, when it's really windy down here, a big spinner bait really comes into play in the fall. Like a double willow, just a nickel color, a lot of flash, or maybe a painted blade with a Colorado 3/4 ounce, just a big spinner bait. You can throw it on 17, 20-pound test, with a little faster retrieve reel, and maybe a 7-foot rod, something you throw it out there, and you want to throw these along the bluff ends, points, windy points. It's catching a lot of wind. When it's really windy, like we're going to get in the fall, kind of nasty weather, that's the days you throw the spinnerbait and throw it right up to the bluff ends, and just start with kind of burning that just underneath the water. Burn it like that for a while and see if you can't get some of the big ones to come up, and just kind of lower it in the water column, maybe just out of sight, and then even down about 4 foot for some of the fish that are suspended out there. Almost kind of similar to what we do in April down here when these fish are suspended out there. They haven't quite went in, feeding on the bank. They're not out deep. They're just they're coming up in that water column, getting in that cooler water. I'm starting to really think about feeding up for the fall, or for the winter actually. So a big spinnerbait's really, really popular, really productive bait down here. Say from now through December, and it's only going to get better. I would say Thanksgiving is the peak of the topwater, the peak of the spinnerbait. Just a lot of action, and just moving your bait really fast. Another bait that I've had really good success with in the fall, actually there's a couple of them, is just a shad color stick bait. Like this is the Pointer 100, just in a shad color. Throw it right on the bank and really work it hard. Jerking it, giving it a lot of action. It's a good bait when it's windy. You can't really throw that topwater sometimes. It's too windy, but it's never too windy ever for a spinnerbait or a stick bait on Main Lake when it's windy. Throw them on a windy point and you're gonna catch fish on it. It's really easy to throw. Probably throw this on 12-pound, fluorocarbon on a medium action rod. So it allows it to get its action, but throw it right up the rocks. Kind of reel it down and just work that thing really heavy, really hard. You're just trying to imitate them big shad coming off of the bank, and the bass are just hanging out there working on them. So something really keep in mind here. Another good topwater is that gunfish that Lucky Craft makes. It has a lot more commotion in its action compared to, like say, a spook. On your flat calm days, maybe a spook, but this thing here will sit in place a lot longer as you're working. It just kind of sits in place and makes a lot of splashing, a lot of commotion, and really will pull up some big fish. This time of year, all the way into late November, even mid-December, depending on that water temp. Until your water temp in the fall, until it drops below 50, you're good. Fast action. These fish are feeding up heavy. In the fall, that water's been warm and it's coming down, so they're already active. And these cold fronts don't bother or affect these fish nowhere near like in the spring when you're going from cold and you're starting to warm up, and then we get a big hard cold front or cold weather, and it drops the temperature and just sets these fish back. In the fall down here at the Ozarks, these cold front, these cold water, these nasty days, it gets these fish moving, it gets them feeding. You know, so you know, these rough, nasty days down here are the days you're looking for in the fall. You know, another bait been really productive. I had a young man in the Toyo series fishing behind me, caught him a nice little limit second day, got him a nice check, and he was throwing him a chatterbait and throwing it behind me and kind of targeting corners of docks, throwing it to the bank, anywhere there was big rocks or shad present. He just a little swim bait on the back of it, a little 4-inch swim bait, just a white color. This was a 5/8 ounce. This is a Picasso, real nice hooks on them. But same deal, throw it like on 14-pound test, medium heavy action rod, throw it right up to the bank. Same deal, burn it, reel it slower, twitch it, do whatever to kind of imitate shad. But it's a really good, easy bait to throw and a productive bait. So, you know, in the fall, we've got a lot of baits we can throw. You just kind of got to vary it. But this is time of year. This is probably one of my favorite times of year. I mean, you know, June has its time, March has its time, but man, late October through November is just a lot of fun down here. A lot of really big fish and a lot of them on top water. So that's you know, that's what a lot of us look forward to. You know, your jigs are still coming into play. Flipping your jigs around shallow docks. You know, something with a lot of action. Maybe a single curly tail of some sort. Something with purple on it. 1/2 ounce jig. I like flipping on 15-pound test, 7-foot rod, and a fast retrieve. I like to flip it in there, let go to the bottom, bounce it a little bit, and maybe swim it a little more this time of year. Flipping it if you're not getting bites when it sinks to the bottom and hits. Start flipping it up to the shallow corners of the docks and just swim it just below the foam. That'll produce a lot of bites too. They don't want something on the bottom. They're more visual and geared to feeding up on the shad. So if you're swimming it, you may get a lot more bites swimming the bait instead of letting it go to the bottom. So, you know, like I said, a lot of baits. The only other thing is like a deep dive crankbait right in the middle of these creeks. You get back there, it might be, I don't know, 18 foot where your boat is, right in the center of the creeks, and throw it to the very back, say 6-8 foot, and just crank that thing right down through the center of these creeks where some of these fish are kind of staging and corralling these shad, keeping the shad pushed up into the shallows, and they'll hang out there in that 15-18 foot of water sometimes, and as them shad try to leave, they come back up and they corral them and keep them pushed back in there where they can feed on them. So, you know, crankbait comes into play too. So, you know, we've got a lot of stuff getting ready to go on. You know, here we've got Bass World Sports starts up this weekend. This Sunday, like I said, Greg and Randy have taken that over and are really doing an excellent job. The numbers are way up. They're just running it professional by some experienced anglers that have been fishing here forever, been fishing tournaments, and they're doing a great job. So, like I said before, if you kind of got away from Bass World or looking for a really good team circuit, Bass World is an excellent one to take a look at. Anglers in Action, they're going to start back up down here. We've got the championship, and then they've got their I don't know if it's going to be annual or not, but it's the first annual, I used to call it the Turkey Bowl, but it's going to be dedicated to Marie. You know, Marie lost her life down here at the lake this year. Super sad deal, but they're going to honor her this year. And I think it's the 28th of November. Take a look at Anglers in Action website to see the exact, but that's a really neat format. They pay equal spaces, big bass to total weight, and they pay a lot of spots. So it's a neat format. You catch one fish, you can make as much as the guys that wins total weight. So take a look at that on Anglers in Action website. I believe it's the 28th of November, but take a look at that. And look at that organization too. We've got a FLW Regional. They just announced last week. It's going to be here in November. That should just set up to be a really, really good event. The fish are going to be biting really good. there's going to be a lot of fish caught, a lot of big bags will be caught. I mean, they're going to hit at prime time for Lake of the Ozarks as far as action. A lot of fish brought in, a lot of big bags, a lot of big fish. So kind of looking forward to that. Disappointed I'm not in it, but you know, that's all right. I'm looking forward to see what everyone come to the lake for this regional. And then, you know, this is a FLW Regional, so they take I don't know what it is, probably maybe 4 or 5 different divisions, and they're going to bring them to the Lake of the Ozarks. Some guys have been here, some haven't, but I'll keep you up to date what's going on down here all the way up until that tournament. You know, I really want to see guys come down and experience what Lake of the Ozarks has to offer, because you can watch here at the Ozarks the weigh-ins throughout the entire year, 12 months a year, and 20 pounds is never safe here. So it just kind of tells you what kind of fishery we have. You know, other than that, man, it's it's a good time here at the lake. A lot of big boats will be getting winterized here shortly. That's a good thing. Get them on them hoists. Get that sticker on the front that says winterized. I like it. You know, you're not going to have a lot of recreational, you know, boats out there. It's a great lake, great place for having fun. But I do enjoy the fall when they start putting that up. They don't start getting out in that cold water and swimming and skiing and tubing and all that. You know, today the weather was in the 60s. This week, whole rest of the week, it's going to be in the 60s. So that'll you know, encourage a lot of people to get these boats put away, covered up, winterized, and we'll be able to run this whole lake and catch a lot of fish here at the lake. So, man, guys, you know, if you haven't been down here, you've been kind of discouraged or kind of down on the fishing here the last few weeks, you're not alone. I've been right there with you, you know, but that's going to change. I seen it just the other day. In 3 hours, I probably had 8 keepers with a couple nice fish in there, and it was literally the first time, you know, in at least 3 weeks that I actually seen some activity going and some aggressive bites to where they literally crush the bait and get it, just like what we know is coming in the fall. So, and it takes 2 or 3 days, and this really turns on and comes into play. So, you know, we're there now. We're going to have some cold days all the rest of the week. We might have a couple of little warm days, but we're going to continue to, you know, cool down, drop that water temp. When that water gets, you know, 60, 65, you know, 66, that's prime time for bass, the most aggressive time. So we're getting there, you know, and that has already started. So, you know, load your boats up, come on down to the lake, get out there, throw you some top water, throw some crockett or buzz baits, throw some whopper ploppers, throw some spinner baits, you know, stick baits, the chatter bait, the crankbait, just whatever you want to throw. Just try to imitate a shad, and you're going to catch some fish. So, guys, I'll keep you up to date. I missed the last couple of weeks. Just been extremely busy with Crockett Gator, just trying to keep up with orders, you know, guiding and just everything else. But, you know, I'll keep you up to date, and until next week, we'll see you.